The Senate is voting on a giant spending and tax bill, which could have ramifications for everything from Medicaid to clean energy tax incentives to food assistance. We wanted to dive into what's inside the 900-plus page bill, starting with changes to the tax code. One of the largest provisions would make permanent all of Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which are set to expire at the end of this year. The bill would also permanently increase the standard deduction by $750 or $1,500 for those filing jointly, with the figure indexed to inflation, and raise the SALT deduction, which dictates how much state and local tax can be written off on a federal return, to $40,000 until 2023. Now, for Medicaid, the largest change would be instituting a work requirement for almost all adults, including parents of children older than 14. It can be fulfilled by proving the individual spent 80 hours a month working, volunteering, or attending school. States are also now required to mandate an up to $35 per service copay, with certain exceptions. With these Medicaid changes and others included in the bill, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that 11.8 million Americans will lose their health insurance. Food assistance also faces severe cuts in this bill, so let's break that down. Congress is imposing expanded work requirements for most adults to receive food assistance, with some exceptions, such as parents of children over 13 years old. The federal government will also begin requiring states to share some of the costs for the nutrition support program for low-income families, or SNAP, that were previously covered in full, and limiting increases for the Thrifty Food Plan, which the federal government uses to set the maximum monthly SNAP benefit. Activists have warned these changes and others in the bill will cause more Americans to go hungry. The Congressional Budget Office has not scored the impact of the Senate's specific food assistance changes, but they found similar provisions in the House bill would cut access for 3.2 million Americans. Every SNAP recipient would also lose $15 a month by 2034 because of changes to the Thrifty Food Plan. The bill also would eliminate almost all clean energy subsidies, including for electric vehicles and developing green technology. It would also eliminate funding to reduce air pollution. Jason Grumet joins us now. He is the CEO of the American Clean Power Association. Jason, thank you for being with us. Your organization unveiled a new analysis of the bill. What exactly did you find?
Well, Meg, look, energy demand in this country is soaring. And so this is the worst possible time to take power off the grid. If the legislation, which is being debated right now, doesn't improve, consumers are going to probably see 10 to 20% increases in their electricity bills. This is going to also undermine the resurgence of American manufacturing. And it also threatens our national security, because we have a tremendous competition right now with China and other countries for making sure that we have digital dominance, that we build the data centers in this country. And so it's just the worst possible moment to be attacking the fastest growing source of American energy. And, ultimately, we think, logic will prevail. But there's a lot riding on the next several hours in the U.S. Senate.
Jason, what can you tell us about the tax on energy and the impact that could have on future solar and wind projects?
So look, this is a big deal, right? 90% of all of the electrons that joined our nation's grid last year were renewable, wind and solar and battery storage. And this is based on, billions of dollars of investment, right? Hundreds of billions of dollars that have been kind of put forward by investment banks and companies, and they're building these projects. The credits are going to go away. I think we all recognize that that's going to happen. But the Senate bill tries to take them away so drastically that you basically just strand all these projects midstream. And I think what the industry is expecting is that we'll see a more deliberate process, so that there's time for the economy to kind of recalibrate to the new tax policy, right? When you change tax policy, when you careen back and forth, everybody loses. So fundamentally, we think the challenge is for the Senate now to bring just a little more logic and make sure that we're actually not letting politics kind of overwhelm the actual interests, the jobs, and the costs being borne by families and their communities.
Can you give us a few examples of who would be impacted the most by this version of the bill?
Yeah, the vast majority of clean power is actually being produced in rural parts of the country, right? There are 10 rural states that rely on wind and solar for more than 50% of their energy. And so that's where you're going to see the impacts, the highest. It's also the place where you're going to see the most lost opportunity. We're going to lose 300,000 jobs a year that have been provided and supported by current tax policy. We've had 200 brand new manufacturing facilities, right? We're reshoring good $100,000 a year jobs here to America to build the components for these technologies. So this is just going in the wrong direction. It's going to raise energy prices, it's going to undermine economic growth, and it's going to threaten our national security. But the good news is some basic, decent changes can make it all okay.
All right, Jason Grumet, thank you very much for your time.
Good to be with you.